Another question then is, there have been suggestions, and this is a new matter, there have been suggestions that there could be almost an alternative government. That, and I think you referred to it in your article. Oh, by the way, just before I get onto that, there was one thing which I might just mention. You do mention the motion to reduce the budget by £1. Was that not a polite way of moving a vote of no confidence?
It is.
It was generally understood to be the nice way.
It is a traditional way of doing it. So the reduction of the budget by £1 or $1 is actually a traditional way of indicating no confidence. Yes, that's right.
Good. And now if I could come to another matter, that is, there have been suggestions that the independents, the Greens and the Coalition could gang up on the Labour government and push through things that they wanted. For example, the parental leave scheme of Tony Abbott's, things like that. Now, is it possible, while you do have a Labour government, to have this sort of parallel government operating, making appropriations, for example, and doing things as if we really had two governments in the country? Is that at all possible?
I think the answer is no, both constitutionally and in practical terms. But again, one has to give a small qualification to this because of the issues about justiciability. It comes back to section 56 of the Constitution, and I have to say this is one that not too many people know about, but people like myself who've worked in government are probably a bit more conscious of this than others. So it's surprising indeed that the Greens and the independents in floating this idea hadn't twigged that this was a problem. Section 56 says that you need a Governor-General's message before you can pass a bill that appropriates money. All right? Now the reason for this is precisely the reason that you don't want to end up in this sort of circumstance where the government loses control of the finances of the country. You can understand that for practical terms that would be a disaster. It would be a disaster if a government did not have control over its own budget. If you cannot plan because other bills are being passed that commit the government to fund programs like parental leave schemes and all the rest of it, presumably also, by the way, without the tax that you need to impose to fund it, then that would presumably stop the government from its other fulfilling its other promises. It would threaten its rating standards, with the ratings agency. The dollar would dive, and all sorts of problems. So for this very reason, the executive is given the power to control at least the initiation of legislation concerning appropriations. So this means that you couldn't introduce legislation that set up some kind of a program or a scheme that required the expenditure of government money, because that would involve an appropriation, and you can't appropriate unless you get the Governor-General's message, and the Governor-General can only give the message on the advice of her ministers. So ministers control appropriations, and for very good reasons.